Okumura is a dedicated otaku who runs a manga club mainly to enjoy his favorite 2D waifu Lilio. But one day, a girl named Risa walks in and asks to join the club. Okumura, traumatized by past experiences, wonders why a girl would want to join a club dedicated to jock and mommy milkers. He then decides that he needs to find a way to get rid of her. Soon, his chance comes when the girl gets excited by the dolls on the shelf. He thinks that showing her the strippable figurines will send the message, but to his surprise, Risa criticizes the color of their panties, suggesting a better alternative. This leaves Okumura torn between kicking her out and seeing her as a kindred spirit. But Risa apologizes for her weirdness and for judging his taste. However, Okumura is curious how a girl could be interested in such things. She then explains that she's always been a bit unusual and shy. Okumura encourages her love for Lilio, but Risa soon claims that no one loves the fictional character more than she does. Hearing this, Okumura scoffs and Risa challenges him, explaining that she often imagines herself as Lilio because no boys are interested in her. Okumura doesn't believe that he has competition, but suddenly Risa notices a movie on the screen and begins to fangirl over it. Forgetting that he was supposed to kick her out, they ended up watching scenes from one of Lilio's movies, screaming with excitement together. Soon, Okumura realizes that she's the perfect Lilio fan for the club, but her being a 3D girl is a deal-breaker for him. Risa then blushes and asks Okumura for a favor, revealing she has a weird hobby she's never shared with anyone. However, Okumura reassures her with some corny anime lines which he learned from his senpai. Feeling encouraged, Risa then reveals her cosplay collection and her dream of making cosrooms. Okumura is shocked by this, but Risa insists that he shouldn't judge his own kind. She explains that her obsession started as a kid, but she kept it secret until she saw other girls at events and realized it was okay. Now she proudly embraces her cosplay kink and hopes to make a costume for Lilio. Okumura then apologizes for judging and asks how he can help. Upon hearing this, Risa asks if he'll take pictures of her in cosplay for the club. But Okumura questions why he has to do this, and Risa explains she wouldn't trust a stranger and feels safer with someone who shares her passion for Lilio. Grateful for his understanding, Risa insists it must be the heavenly fate that put them together and asks if she can join the club. Initially, Okumura remembers that it's been an all-male club so far, but agrees for the sake of the culture. Risa is thrilled, and Okumura assures her he's only into 2D girls who can't talk back, so he won't be affected by her cosplay. However, Risa seems to take that as a challenge and starts taking off her skirt, catching Okumura off guard. He then blames Risa for assaulting his eyes, but she innocently explains that she just wants to show off one of her costumes. The otaku virgin then quickly covers the windows with a board so no one else gets a peek. While he panics, Risa calmly puts on her costume, does her makeup, fixes her hair, and steps forward for the reveal. But when Okumura turns around, he can't believe his eyes, as it felt like seeing a real-life Lilio. He even gets a nosebleed when she says Lilio's catchphrase. He manages to get back up, but he's definitely not okay, stunned by how much she resembles Lilio. As he's still recovering, Risa shows him the fresh panties she chose for the costume and asks his opinion, turning around to reveal her big jacket, causing Okumura's virgin soul to leave his body. Later, Okumura wakes up with his head on Risa's lap, who has been worried sick. She then mentions that she will begin her debut photo shoot the next day, causing Okumura to turn into a blushing mess once again. The next morning, he enters crisis mode, wondering if he's falling in love with a real girl after swearing loyalty to his favorite manga page. Suddenly, Risa walks in and finds him watching a rare episode she's never seen. She then asks him to give her the rundown, and Okumura eagerly geeks out. But when she asks how he knows so much, he offers to show her his research methods. They soon grab some game pads and start gaming, with Okumura thinking that he has nothing to worry about. Suddenly, Risa asks to pause the game, stopping on a part where Lilio's treasure is in full view. Okumura wonders if she's even more down bad than he is, but she pulls out her phone to take pictures so her cosplay can be as realistic as possible. Her dedication is paying off, as Okumura almost loses it at the sight of her dedication. At that moment, Risa decides to get into character and starts stripping on the spot. Okumura quickly grabs the board while trying to convince himself he's simply impressed by her dedication. He then turns around to see her new one-piece costume and agrees to take photos of her. After setting up a plain backdrop, Risa starts posing, and Okumura immediately recognizes the poses from the manga, which makes him tear up. She changes into another outfit, and although Okumura has no idea what he's doing, he's actually having a lot of fun. However, when Risa looks at the pictures, she's happy with the results and glad her love for Lilio has come through. While on the other hand, Okumura still finds it surreal that she loves Lilio this much. She then tells him that she's ready to change back, so Okumura tries to give her some space until she informs him that her zipper is stuck and she needs his help to undress. He quickly tugs at the zipper and looks away before catching a glimpse of her melons. However, fate intervenes, causing them to trip and fall into his arms. She then thanks him for catching her, but points out that he also caught something else. Hearing this, Okumura almost had a heart attack, swearing it was an accident. But Risa says it's okay and asks him for some privacy to change, so he grabs his bag and runs from the crime scene. Once she changes back, she turns red and wonders why her heart is beating so fast, then runs home quickly to deal with whatever feelings she might have caught from him. The next day, the principal gets a surprise enrollment from a famous model who seems to have a thing against manga and Okumura's face. When she heads to class, all the boys become raging simps, drooling over her perfect body, while the rest of the girls become NPCs. However, Mikuri asks the losers if they have a manga club, and one guy thinks he's about to get lucky until she says that she hates manga. Meanwhile, Okumura looks like a steaming pile of regret as he remembers the moment he touched heaven and blames fate for his turmoil. He then heads for the club, hoping Risa isn't there, but the pink-haired lunatic is already waiting for him. There they share an awkward moment before Okumura brings up all the commotion of that morning. Risa then informs him that a new student joined their class that day, and she happens to be a famous model who's really cute. Okumura is surprised that Risa would say that until she starts geeking out over how perfect the model would be as Liliel's best friend. Just then, Risa pulls out an old camera, which Okumura recognizes as the one his senpai used to take pictures of the club's regular activities. However, Risa notices Okumura looking fondly at the pictures and apologizes for forcing him to go along with her demands. She then asks what he wants to do instead. But surprisingly, Okumura suggests taking pictures of her cosplay, as he honestly found it quite fun the last time. This caused her to cry rivers from his compliment, overjoyed to have his consent, and began to throw off her clothes for their first round of photos. Suddenly, Risa remembered that she couldn't pack her cosplay since the teachers were searching all the bags earlier, so she comes up with another idea and drags Okumura to an empty classroom. There, Risa suggests that he take practice shots of her in her uniform. But as sets up the camera, Okumura wonders why he's getting worked up since she's not Liliel. They soon start the photo shoot, but when Risa looks at the photos, she becomes lifeless, thinking she looks ugly. Okumura then reassures her, thinking she's just a normal amount of ugly, but Risa explains she wants to look like Liliel and apologizes for not being 2D. Suddenly, she has a brilliant idea to pretend her uniform is part of the cosplay. She takes off her glasses, shortens her skirt, and adds a bit of makeup until she looks like Sakura's level of attractive. Okumura wonders if he has a thing for useless girls, but tries to focus on his devotion to Liliel. However, Risa thinks her pose is too boring and tries to amp it up by striking more provocative poses. Not long after, her glasses fall down and she bends to grab them, seeing a perfect aerial view. Okumura starts snapping away. But Risa accidentally hits her head on the way up and ends up falling onto Okumura again, who's never experienced anything like this before, causing him to pass out from too much excitement. Afterward, Risa looks at the pictures and blushes when she realizes she wasn't wearing cosplay underwear. She quickly demands he delete all her pictures. But suddenly, an announcement calls Risa to the faculty office and she runs out to attend to it, while Okumura decides to keep some of the pictures for the memories he'll be needing for his little friend every night. Meanwhile, all the boys crowd around Mikari as she enters the club building, trying to get her attention. But another girl accidentally spills water on her and an embarrassed Mikari runs off to be alone. Tired of being alone, Okumura hears the commotion outside and goes to check it out. However, Mikari stumbles into the manga club and Okumura recognizes her from his childhood. She leaps into his arms, remembering how 5 years ago she had asked Okumura if he had a crush on anyone, and the tiny dumbass had proclaimed his love for Liliel because she could never do him dirty. In the present, the boys continue to search the hallways for her, so Okumura closes the door and blocks the window to escape being branded a traitor. He then asks her why she suddenly hugged him, and she says she was hoping to make him blush. But Okumura asks Mikari why she's wet. However, she plays it off and asks if she can dry her clothes there. While Okumura buries his head in his manga, she starts taking off every layer of her clothes. He then tells her to stop messing around and keep her underwear on, but when she tells him he can look, he catches a glimpse of her chest and panics. She soon lies down on the couch hoping to take a nap and asks if he would like to join her. But Mikari enjoys teasing the helpless loser and asks if he thinks she's cute. When he says she's always been cute, she blushes and insists she's even cuter now as a famous model. Surprised, Okumura drops his Liliel manga and slips on it, ending up right on top of her. She holds him tight while he tries to leave, giving him a nightmare situation. But she asks to stay in that position just a little while longer. However, Okumura starts taking off his jacket, making Mikari rethink her actions since she's not ready to go that far. He simply covers her up so she doesn't catch a cold, begging his Liliel manga for forgiveness. Feeling rejected, Mikari puts her clothes back on and asks if he has a crush on anyone. Though the first person he thinks of is Riza, he claims he'll never cheat on Lilial, convincing himself that Riza only came to mind because of her cosplay. Mikari soon grabs her bag, realizing he's still the same, and tells him she hates him. Later, she hangs out on the rooftop, wondering why she doesn't just tell him that she likes him. She then remembers how she first got scouted as a model, thinking Okumura would finally like her if everyone else did too. Her manager even asked why she had a crush on such a bottom feeder when she could have anyone she wanted. She then remembered how Okumura protected her from bullies who made fun of her hair. Because of this, she got into his favorite manga and styled her hair to look like Lilial's. She then returned to the park and tried to get him to play with her, but he wasn't interested until she mentioned the manga. However, the rest of the boys started swooning over her at a young age, but Okumura was the only one who never paid her attention, which is why she fell in love with him. It was then when she decided that she couldn't betray him like other 3D girls, aiming to become an angel for him, working hard so he'd finally notice her. Mikari can't believe she's no better than the drooling simps that chase after her, except she's chasing a miserable loner who might marry a cardboard cutout. Suddenly, she notices the manga club from the roof and sees a girl walk up to Okumura. Inside the club, Risa starts her routine of stripping, while Okumura blocks the windows, sending Mikari running down to investigate. But when she arrives, she tears up seeing Okumura with a 3D girl and calls him a liar and a cheat. However, Risa walks up to her and asks if she joined her cosplay, shocking Mikari. Risa explains all the shenanigans to Mikari, who thinks this is the weirdest kink she's ever seen. She wonders how Risa has no shame, but to Okumura's surprise, Risa admits she does feel embarrassed, yet her love for Lilial outweighs her shame. Mikari doesn't buy it until she sees Okumura's awestruck face, realizing Lilial really is the only way to his heart. Risa then asks Mikari if she'd like to cosplay with her, making Okumura warn her not to get her hopes up, but to his surprise, Mikari agrees without hesitation. The scene then flashes back to how Okumura paused before answering the question about his crush, which means there's a possibility the dense fool might fall for the cosplay Lilial too. But when Risa tells Mikari she'll be cosplaying as Muriella, Mikari asks why she has to be the third wheel best friend. But when Okumura compliments her for still following the manga, Mikari drags Risa behind a whiteboard, insisting on playing Lilial since that's who Okumura likes. Realizing that Risa is too dense to understand and that she can't possibly reveal her feelings, she suddenly claims that she loves Lilial that much. Upon hearing this, Risa takes off her Lilial costume right off her body. However, when Mikari sees the mountains Risa's packing, she gets humbled and sticks to being the third wheel best friend. Seeking approval, Mikari asks Okumura if he likes Muriella, but she isn't prepared for the intense geek-out session detailing the reasons why flat chests are acceptable with a dump truck behind her. Unfortunately, Okumura stays loyal to Lilial and only sees Muriella as a sister. Soon after accepting her fate, Risa offers to take her measurements for a costume. But when Mikari asks if it'll take her a month to make, Risa assures her she'll be done that night. The next morning, Mikari heads to the manga club only to find Risa in her normal form, asking for some more measurements. Okumura casually explains that Risa had stayed up all night, which can be seen from the eye bags. However, Risa suddenly starts yapping about how important it is to get the exact details right, making Mikari wonder who gives a damn about these things. But Risa explains that she strives to make her cosplay as realistic as possible, making Mikari realize that her love for Lilial is no joke. When she finally finishes the costume, Mikari almost explodes when she sees a tiny string that Risa is calling a costume. However, Okumura reminds her that's her squad uniform, but Mikari can't help but think it's worse than being in her birthday suit. She then notices Risa's costume is just as revealing, but when Risa says she's going to wear it without hesitation, she decides she can't lose her and summons her inner demons. Later, Okumura looks away, but that doesn't stop him from hearing all the details of the girls' changing session, which features Mikari's badly hidden jealousy of Risa's watermelons. She soon notices that Risa is strangely into it for Otaku reasons, so Mikari is hardly surprised to discover the girl has no friends. While Okumura sits in pure silence, the girls put the finishing touches on their hair and makeup for their debut. Upon finishing, Mikari can even hardly recognize her own reflection, but she hopes Okumura can finally look her way. As they step out and tell Okumura he can finally look, his brain overloads from all the exposure and passes out. When our virgin regains his composure, he compliments Mikari on looking perfectly like Muriella, and Mikari can't believe all her dreams are coming true. However, they soon turn into nightmares when Okumura dumps her for Lilial. Just then, Mikari realizes that even though she was never a fan of the manga, she always liked Muriella. To her, Muriella was the loser third wheel, thirsting after a bonehead who couldn't see past a blonde wig and Mount Everest. Muriella would scream for him to look at her, but she was always ignored. Feeling just like her, Mikari screams out and asks why he won't look at her. However, these idiots just think that she's getting into character and praise her delivery. She soon remembers Okumura liking Muriela's jacket and asks if hers is doing the job too. This causes him to start simping so hard, so Mikari teases him and asks if he loves her. He readily professes his love, which is something Mikari has been waiting 10 years to hear, although when she thinks about it, it's pretty pathetic, but not any less than you getting hard from watching an anime recap. Next, Risa pulls out the poses they'll be trying, and even though Mikari's contract doesn't allow it, she decides to go along with it. After setting up the backdrop, Risa tells Mikari she's free to back out if she's too embarrassed, but Mikari takes one more look at Risa's ballistic missiles and says hell no. Mikari steps forward, and Okumura realizes the deep trouble he's in and that he can't allow the shield hero to rise. Their first pose is for Lilio to heal Muriela by laying her hands on her ballistic missiles, which I can't show you due to obvious reasons. As they try to reenact the scene, Okumura tries his hardest to stop his nose from bleeding. However, Mikari is distracted by Okumura's praise, so when Lilio touches her chocolate chips, she accidentally makes her forbidden emote. Risa then praises her for making it look so realistic, and Mikari starts to question what exactly is going on here. But when Okumura pitches in and assures her she's doing a good job, Mikari gets embarrassed that he just witnessed that. Lilio then tells her it's time for her to start her healing infusion, so when Mikari places her hands on Risa's ballistic missiles, he can't help but lose his composure. Mikari wishes he would simp for her that way, so she insists that Lilio give her some more of that good healing. But when she tries to do so, she trips and gets stuck on Lilio's outfit. Risa soon asks for his help, but Mikari hates the idea of Okumura touching Lilio's missiles. Accepting that he has no choice, Okumura can't believe this is happening and tries to pretend they're sandbags. However, he still can't get them loose, so the only option is to unhook it, causing the whole package to be revealed. Later on, the team talks more about Muriela's backstory, making Okumura excited that Mikari is a creepy otaku just like him. She tries to deny it until she hears how much he enjoys talking about it with her and realizes that she never actually tried liking the things that he likes. This whole time, the big nerd was just happy that his childhood friend likes the same manga as him. Risa notices how much fun they're having and starts to look gloomy, so she thanks Mikari for helping out with the costume. But suddenly, Mikari breaks the news that they can't use the pictures due to her modeling contract, which causes Risa's soul to leave her body. However, Mikari says she can see why they like cosplay so much and wouldn't mind doing it again. As she heads out, she realizes she's still got time to bag her man, so there's no need to worry. After she's gone, Risa wonders what that feeling was, but Okumura snaps her out of it. She then suggests they finally put the pictures together for a cosplay album and sell them at the next event, as she's already signed up for one, which gives them about a week to pull it off. Okumura then offers to help with the editing, but Risa assures him that he doesn't have to do that. However, he tells her they'll do it together since that's what he promised and he's been having tons of fun anyway. That night, they manage to escape the school sweep, so they work overnight in the club. They soon get started, and Risa shows Okumura the ropes, but by her calculations, they'll take a ton of time to do 500 pictures. Risa starts to panic, thinking they should have started earlier, so Okumura grabs her hand and assures her they can make it work together. Just then, the security guard calls out for anyone in the room, so Okumura pins her to a wall and offers to give himself up if it comes to it. Thankfully, the guard remembers that he isn't paid enough for this and leaves. However, Risa stays stunned until she realizes she's not alone anymore, so she gets to work. A week later, they both look like they've just escaped from your uncle's basement, but the work is finally finished. However, when Mikari finds out they were up all night and are heading to an event together, she directly asks Risa how she feels about Okumura. Meanwhile, Okumura is wondering if the outing qualifies as a date. He tries to convince himself it's just a club event, but he can't stop worrying about what to wear. He then assumes Risa probably didn't think much about her outfit, but in reality, she tore her room apart looking for one. When Risa answers Mikari's question, she says Okumura is very supportive, kind of like Ashford. So Mikari points out that Risa is basically admitting she's into Okumura. Turns out, Risa herself had wondered if she was indeed falling for his otaku riz while choosing an outfit, feeling embarrassed without knowing why. Later, Okumura arrives at the train station, still fussing over his outfit, expecting Risa to show up looking casual. However, when she arrives, Okumura is stunned by how great she looks without her glasses and turns red. Risa worries about looking ridiculous, but Okumura compliments her, shocked at her fashion sense. She didn't have much at first, but after seeing some outrageous outfits online, she called Mikari for help. Mikari agreed to assist her the next day, dressing her in an outfit that made her look normal. When Risa thanked her, Mikari insisted they were even since Risa had made a costume for her. Now Risa and Okumura are the only ones on the train, so Okumura suggests they kill some time before the event. Risa feels silly for overthinking things since Okumura seems so calm, but he's actually on the verge of a meltdown as well. Now that they're dressed up, they totally look like a couple. To ease any tension, Okumura tries to break the ice with a dating sim topic like the weather, but is unprepared when Risa actually has something to say about it. He tries again and asks if she'd like to hang out somewhere. But when they arrive at the convention, it's not open yet. So they try to karaoke bar next, but that place is closed too. Okumura soon notices Risa looking a bit down, so they head to a manga cafe, but all the rooms are taken. Finally, Risa stops him, revealing her feet are hurting from all the walking in heels. As Okumura checks if she's okay, he realizes it's his fault for not noticing. They then sit together with nothing to do until Risa mentions a spin-off episode of Lilial that aired last night. This quickly made them forget their troubles and start geeking out over Lilial, making Risa happy. After this, Okumura apologizes for not taking better care of her, but she insists she always has fun with him. This experience then made Okumura realize that maybe 3 gi girls aren't so bad if they're like Risa. Suddenly, Risa notices it's almost time for the event, so they head to the hall to set up. Okumura is underwhelmed by the size of the event, but when Risa assures him it's one of the big ones, she starts getting nervous. When they reach their booth, Okumura suggests setting up their gear until Risa breaks the news that they forgot to print covers or posters. He then tries to control his frustration as Risa points out their neighbor's well-done costume, unlike their blank covers. To make matters worse, she handwrote the titles on the DVDs, making them look shady. Just then, their neighbor comes over to greet them, surprising Risa by cosplaying as a recent character. Magino asks what they're selling, and Risa explains they're newbies and forgot a bunch of stuff. But when Risa says it's a Lilial Cosrum, Magino is shocked at how outdated her choice is and advises that she won't get much attention if she doesn't cosplay current characters. However, Magino reassures her that everyone's first time is tough, but she can make it work if she's good at sales. Okumura then asks Risa if she brought her costume so people can at least know what they're selling. However, Risa wants to try selling as herself, feeling intimidated by the other cosplayers. Despite Okumura's assurance that her cosplay is much cuter than the neighboring cosplayers, Risa continues to doubt herself. The event officially begins, and the air is filled with the smell and desperation as people like you start to enter the room. Okumura and Risa's booth gains no attention while Magino is selling out instantly. Magino and her assistant soon come over to encourage Risa to be a literal poster girl and take charge, but they realize that neither Risa nor Okumura is comfortable talking to strangers, highlighting their otaku status. Finally, the customer approaches their booth but hesitates when Risa mentions that it's a cosplay of Lilial, who is considered old and overdone. Okumura suddenly realizes that if they attract customers, they'll see revealing content of Risa, and he starts to dislike the idea. He feels relieved when the customer backs out and almost hopes no one buys from them. Just then, another customer approaches and asks if Risa is in the cosroom. Risa confirms it, but when the man asks if there are explicit shots, Okumura becomes strangely defensive. Risa then explains that it wasn't an OnLife's photo shoot, causing the customer to leave, claiming it's too expensive. Okumura asks if the pictures really have zero edge potential content, and Risa explains she can't sell any softcore content since she's not of age yet. Okumura is stunned as he asks what he's been getting nosebleeds over all this time, and Risa explains that those were just for her. Suddenly, Risa suggests they pack up and leave since no one's going to buy ancient cosplay with no provocative content. However, Okumura realizes he's been a bad partner and tells Risa to change into her Lilial costume. He turns red and apologizes for trying to keep the Lilial content to himself, but since it's her dream for everyone to see her cosplay, he insists on helping her. Risa worries that her cosplay won't be good enough, but Okumura assures her that her cosplay is the cutest in the world and admits that he even felt like Lilial was real. Before Risa can process what kind of confession that was, Okumura whisks her to the changing rooms. They don't have much time until the end of the event, so Risa promises to change as fast as she can. Okumura paces outside like a father when he suddenly hears deep voices coming from the women's changing rooms. He tries to tell the men off, but they inform him they're actually women too. So he quickly apologizes for his mistake, but the girls tell him that it's fine. While he waits, Okumura checks out Magino's photo shoot, which is attracting a lot of attention. But he overhears 2 photographers lamenting how boring this year's cosplay is. Meanwhile, Risa arrives at the changing room and is overwhelmed by the scene. Though most people are changing out of their costumes to leave, Risa finds a spot and starts to get ready, only to realize she forgot to pack a wig cap and other essential items. At this rate, there's no way she can pull off being Lilial. Suddenly, one of the girls walks up and offers her a wig cap, shocking her. In seconds, a swarm of helpful otakus surrounds her, asking what she needs and encouraging her since it's her first time. Thanks to their help, she's able to suit up. But when the girls discover she made the costume herself, they are very impressed. Risa then offers to return their items, but the girls explain that everyone has received help from other cosplayers at some point, so she should repay the favor to someone else in the future. One of the girls recognizes Risa from her first event and is glad to see her finally make it back. When Risa hears the photo booth will be closing soon, she turns around and flashes the girls, who insist she can't go out without covering up. One of them gives her a pair of short pants, and Risa finally adds the finishing touches, making even the girls blush. On her way out, Risa runs into a cosplay guy who tells her how worried Okumura was and remarks on what a great partner she has. Outside, Okumura waits for Risa's debut, and just in the nick of time, Risa walks out confidently and calls out for her Ashford. This then concludes the 4th episode's recap of this anime. If you enjoyed this video and want more of it, go ahead and hit that like button down below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you everyone for helping us in reaching 9,000 subscribers. Let's continue to grow this community and help us reach our nearby goal of 10,000 subscribers.